This hangout is on air, is live. Okay, yeah, we're live.
Hello.
Everyone.
Hello.
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 This is Cameron Marceau and Sreedhar once again with another MyFriendsAreAwesome.com, where we're exploiting our awesome friends because we can, because we have Google Hangouts on air and we have Facebook, and it makes it so damn easy.
There we go.
So I think the most exciting thing for me is that my backdrop is different.
Yeah, very nice. I was going to ask about that.
I have developed a brand new nerd hole.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
I've moved up to the attic.
Attic. Yeah.
So because my game collection, my nerd collection back there is just too big. It's like our office was looking like hoarders, and so I needed to like organize everything and move it out, and like we just went up into the attic and organized, and now I have this space.
Well,
And
attics are dry air, which is much better for piles of very important 30-year-old paper versus basements, which is pretty much instant destruction.
that's exactly what I was thinking, and I've rejected the basement move, the entire time. So and
It's very nice. It's got that sort of like creepy old man in the attic sort of look. I love it. You.
Speaking of creepy old men in attics.
Oh, you have a battle axe. How nice.
Strangely enough, my sister thought that I needed one of these.
She must not think well of Midwesterners.
Well, that, and also she just knows that I have a strange affinity for weapons behind glass. So, okay.
In case of emergency.
Okay, so we're here with Christopher Murrie.
Hello.
Also, one of our friends from Knox, who also happens to be on the West Coast. Everybody we know, well, everybody we've interviewed, almost everybody has moved out west, has rolled to the Pacific. So, but
Well, that's sort of where you run out of going.
you weren't always there though. You started in Chicago after Knox, after graduation.
I moved out.
Oh, you just dropped out.
I moved what? Maybe I'm going to get up a little closer to my router. I moved from Wicker Park to, where was it? North. What's the north side? I've been gone so long I can't remember. Ravenswood.
Okay.
So I lived between Wicker Park and Ravenswood for, 4 years after college, and then I've been in Oregon for 16. So,
okay.
Overwhelming majority of my adult life has been Oregon. I mean, this feels like home now, easily.
Yeah. And what did you go to Oregon with something? Were you going to something, or were you just like, fuck this, let's get out of here?
You know what it was? It was a general dissatisfaction with my lifestyle in Chicago. I think once I sort of realized that I wanted to try to get into editing, what's that, Columbia College or there's a film school in Chicago, which is just
right. Columbia Film School.
Graduates, at a blistering pace. And as I was in my mid-20s and sort of done working for minimum wage, done scraping by, I was ready to kind of take the next step forward, and finding I'm having to compete with graduates who are willing to work literally for nothing. I knew I had to try something different, and came out here on a week's vacation just based on good stuff I heard from friends, and fell in love, took a chance, came out here with no job, just one contact from Knox who managed an apartment complex in the suburbs, so I had a place. But other than that, it was probably the biggest risk I've taken in my adult life, and it paid off pretty well.
Yeah.
It's a great place to live. I absolutely love living here. I mean, turn around. Tried to show Cameron before. See if I can see it.
It's gorgeous.
There's the bridge out there isn't showing up, but there's a huge suspension bridge,
Right.
going across the river right in front of my house. And I live in the woods, and I have mice in my car. Not bad. I'd rather have mice breaking in than local ruffians.
Yes.
No doubt.
So when you got to Portland with nothing, you had no. Did you fall into the work that you have now,
Well,
or was it more of a progression?
it was a progression, but this was sort of the trajectory I was intending.
Okay.
Not necessarily features. I never had any idea, or it never occurred to me that feature films would be an option, especially in Oregon. I mean, that's just, who moves to Oregon to get into movies? It just doesn't work. But I knew I wanted to edit, and I knew the smaller market, I probably had a better chance of standing out. But I'd say within the first 3-4 months of being here, I managed to get a job editing wedding videos, of all things, which is pretty mind-numbing, awful work.
I would imagine.
But the guy I did it for, had very high-end clients, and he worked on an Avid, which is the editing system that I had learned, and that's at the time was the industry standard for features and high-end commercial work and things like that. So it was really a boon that I worked overnights. I'd go in at 10, and I'd cut wedding videos till 3-4 in the morning. I'd get paid a stipend basically per show that I turned around. So even though I didn't really turn out anything that I would be willing to show on a reel or anything like that, it was hours and hours and hours on the equipment. So I got very proficient very fast.
Sure.
Sort of, it primed me to be a really strong assistant editor, which after a year of doing that, I got hired at Will Vinton Studios as an assistant editor, and from there, that's where I've been for 15 years. Same studio. I switched from being an assistant to an editor in 2001, and did commercials until 2005, and then I've been doing feature films since then.
Any commercials you want to tell us about that you are proud of, or otherwise,
proud of,
or would be known for?
Well, I did a lot of M&Ms.
Wow.
There was the first stuff I worked on where there was stop motion things they did for the NFL on Fox. This
Right.
would have been in 2000, 2001, so they're sort of ancient history by now. But those were pretty clever. Advertising is the kind of thing where for every great spot you do, there's probably 15 or 20 denture cream commercials, or Thermacare muscle relaxing pads and things like that. Just stuff that just makes you want to jump off a bridge. So you got to do a lot of that stuff to get the really interesting things. But there's a few gems here and there.
Sure.
But proud of it. I'm selling stuff. That's the hard thing. No matter what, advertising is pushing product, and often M&Ms, it's selling candy and breakfast cereals to kids. So
yeah,
there is an evil that's sort of lurking in there. I'm going to go inside because it's kind of chilly out here. Yeah. Just had to rub it in on the West Coast. We're still.
As you should.
Well, this gives a little stop motion effect as we're watching you walk through your house in the background. It's kind of a neat groove going.
I've got some stop motion paraphernalia around. If you want to see anything, I can.
Sure.
Some stuff. Nothing major, but I can swing over here and show you. I've got. If you guys have seen Coraline, this is one of the mice from, from Mr. Babinski's attic.
Absolutely.
These guys were printed on a 3D printer.
Oh, wow.
None of them were actually articulated. They were animated by printing, I don't know, several hundred of them, but each individual mouse might have had 30 poses that would get cycled through, so it was a whole prop would get swapped in and out per frame. And then in this little box, I've got some of the faces from Paranorman.
Sure.
These guys are, let's see if I can swing it around here and I can show you. These are also 3D printed, and they have rare earth magnets on the inside. So you can swap out the eyebrows and the facial expressions per frame. Let's see if I can get it on there. Take off the faces.
Cool.
So there aren't actually moving parts on the puppets themselves. It's all pieces come off, and
right.
But the advantage of that is they can print extremely detailed, just beautifully sculpted facial expressions, and the type of performance you get out of them is vastly superior to the old way when they did it with paddles and latex.
Yeah.
Sure. So the concept is that you have your model, your main model, and you're switching out expressions and details.
Exactly.
And then taking a shot of the detail and then editing that out later in post production to make sure the story goes through.
Yeah, I mean it's 24 frames a second, so
yeah,
that's 24 faces per second over 87 minutes. It's a lot of frames.
That's a lot.
But to me, the beautiful thing about working in animation, and at least in editorial, is it's still magic. I mean, I still go in and open up the folder and look at the shots for the day, and they're moving. It's already a living thing. So the fact that they're out on the stage slaving away is sort of invisible unless I actually get up off my butt and walk out there and look.
Right.
So the magic's still pretty exciting in there every day.
Sure. It's just a little. I gotta admit, I'm a little jealous. A little jealous of the fact that you look like a man who is like completely in his zone. You are in the pocket. This is exactly where I want to be, and I am thriving, and I'm loving it. And, well, I don't know that I can say the same thing. I'm not Cameron more than I think, because he's his own man, but of a sort.
Well, I mean that's the big challenge, isn't it? I mean, is finding
the niche,
that thing that you just love doing so much that you don't mind getting up at 5:15 on Monday to go do it. Week after week after week. For I've been doing it 15 years, and there's certainly days I don't want to go because it's a job. I mean, it's always a job. The fact that you have to go is a drag sometimes. But then I get there and I see magic happen.
Yeah.
And, I forget about it. But it is still the mystique. The mystique kind of clouds the fact that you do work under tight deadlines. There's a lot of money at stake. There's a big collection of very creative and passionate people, and not every time does everyone agree about how to do something, so it gets very heated at times. The pressure can make it very intense, and the days can get pretty rough, but at the end of the day, we've made something, and hopefully it's making people happy, so it's all worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Though, Coraline did scare the bejesus out of my daughter.
Excellent. Mission accomplished.
She went home and told on me. It's like,
oh my God,
Daddy took me to a scary movie, and
Well, so scary's good. I think.
I know.
My kids thought Paranormal was just rocking. So.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
They were sufficiently freaked out, and they went, "Oh wow, but it's a movie. We like it, so let's keep going." And
I think kids want to be scared.
Yeah. They walked into it.
They don't want to be terrified.
No.
But they want to walk up to that edge and see it. And I think that I've gotten a window onto how nervous people are about that. And I think it's funny how people grow up and they kind of forget how exciting it is to be afraid and that nervousness and looking away but then peeking again. Looking through your eyes as you are looking through your hands as you cover your eyes. Kids love it. So I think
the only closest analog is driving past a car accident. I think and unfortunately it's so hyper real that people take a negative connotation out of that, but they're still just as sticking their head out the window and slowing down.
Well, I suppose that's the adult version of it. I mean, I think as a kid, that fascination is like, okay, fear's this thing that's uncomfortable and it's a negative emotion, but it's something that I can flirt with, and movies are a safe place to experience it without real consequence. And whereas that highway thing, that's the adult version where it's no longer about experimenting with fear. It's like oh, mortality, you know.
Yeah, mortality is coming at you. Well, I'm of the mind that I think through them, I tend to remember those beautiful bits of fear.
Yeah.
And when I was watching, especially Paranorman, I was there with them. You know what I mean?
Oh, good.
I suspended my adult head and was just right there with them, and I was totally into it, personally speaking.
We went and watched Paranorman 2 all together, and what I thought was really cool was the conflict at the end to find out what it actually was, you know, and it was just so immediately identifiable. Mm-hmm. You're like, it wasn't a big extravagant thing. It was like, yeah, everybody feels like that, and if everybody had the power to do something, you know, like that, it would, you know, there'd be issues, and I mean, just the fact that you know, we can all identify. I thought that was beautifully done.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and we made a conscious effort too to make sure that the protagonist didn't defeat her by killing her. You know, that ultimately it was about coming in contact with someone who understands your point of view and can empathize and offer solace. That was how he, quote unquote, defeated her. And it was a really great. It was refreshing, you know, because in Coraline there was a physical conflict that was defeated on those terms, but in Paranorman the effort was to make it about sort of reconciliation or
sure.
Yeah, and that was fantastic.
There was no need to murder the bad guy, I guess.
No.
I'm liking it. I'm wondering, as I remember last time before this little meetup, last time I remember seeing you, you were at the Double Door at one point.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, doing sound for in fact I don't remember who it was, but I was trying to get in touch with you, but the crowd was just huge. And all I knew is that you were doing lights or you were doing sound or both.
Yeah, it was lights. I had just started to learn monitors when I decided to leave.
And so it was a killer show, and I had a great time, but I was just hoping to buy you a drink or at least, you know, like say hello or something, and it didn't jive. But
I wonder if that was it a Sunday night? Was it Liquid Soul?
Must have been Liquid Soul.
Probably. I've seen that band more than any band on earth. Probably every Sunday for 2 years. It was.
Well, I'd follow them from the times of once a month or something they'd play at the Elbow Room.
Yeah, I went to the Elbow Room every Sunday there too.
And
when I was on the arts program.
And I sat in with them a few times. They were very nice to me.
Nice.
But that was a while ago. I wasn't as good as they were. Never. But they were kind to me. And that was early on before they got really big and started recording a bunch of albums and stuff. But I remember seeing you talking about that, and I was quite pleased that friends of mine were in the neighborhood when I came back.
I miss the live feedback. You know, that's I guess probably the one thing about editing that I really dislike is that you work in a vacuum versus that live experience where the clock's ticking down and the band walks up there and you turn the lights on and the crowd explodes. You know, I mean,
right.
But there's a palpable feedback you get right then and there, and when you lock in and you're sort of in the zone and it's all coming together and singing, you just feed off that energy. Whereas now I've got 3-year stretches at a time where I'm working a scene and working and working and working it, and you don't get the payoff for so long that by the time you watch it with an audience, you're so tired of seeing it and sort of become immune to it that it can be I don't know, a little difficult, the journey there, to remind yourself that there's going to be that thing.
Have you ever considered going to a theater and just bringing your own like a lawn chair or something, and instead standing on the corner right by the exit door and just watching the audience?
I like to be down there in the middle of it. I think to get the best sense of that energy, I think you want to participate. So to me, I like to be right in the middle, and feel all the people around you, feel the tension in the room, feel the release when they laugh, all that kind of stuff. I think it's very hard to get that when you're at the back of the room. And I even do that in crew screenings when we show stuff in the theater at work. I don't like to be at the back, although oftentimes I'm stuck there just for technical reasons because I'm operating some piece of gear back in the projection booth.
Sure.
But, it's great to be there and be in the audience, but it's a rare treat.
Yeah.
So is your role now specifically feature films? Are you is that kind of where you've been tracked, or is it more diverse still?
No, it's pretty much all I'm doing anymore is features, just because they take so long. Any one of these, it's about a 3-year journey from first time I sit down to cut maybe like the first exploratory bit of development all the way to final mix and delivery. It's about 3 years, and there's no bandwidth to fit anything else in. It just sort of takes over your life,
I can imagine, and I can see the value in that.
It's great. I mean, to get to invest in a project for that long is really fantastic, especially after spending several years doing things that were 6 and 8 week schedules, to suddenly have oh gosh, this one scene I have 6 months to work. That's amazing. You really get a chance to work every single detail of it. And
sure. So do you see the other parts of the process? Do you get to meet the voice actors, or any of the writers? Do you kind of have any participation or even kind of nudge that on occasion?
Well, with the writing, the Coraline and Paranorman were both written by the directors. So just by that I had access, and we'd be rewriting in the room, which was great. We'd have people when we were recording all the scratch dialogue, which is what we do. That's the temporary dialogue before we have the actual actors cast. We have people in the studio just get up and read the lines so that we can get test versions together. But we'd be rewriting right there, and so it was great to be just right in the middle of that process, and throwing out lines and trying them and having stuff make it in. The picture I'm on right now had a writer who was out of not part of the studio, but now there's some extra stuff being done by somebody who I know. So I guess I still have access, but this is the first time I'm doing something that came from outside of sort of the walled garden, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit different this time because not having that window of oh, this is somebody I'm close friends with, so I kind of know his process and know how to approach it. Now we're sort of well, this is this thing that was handed to me.
Yeah.
I have to make my best guess about intent and things like that, or if we reinterpret, it's just okay.
Well, doesn't that give you the flip? Doesn't that now all of a sudden you have more God powers than you did before, because you don't have an insight as to intent? You have to create that insight on your own while you're editing.
Well, but then the other side of it is then you have conflicting interpretation and things like that, where you don't have that person who's the guidepost who can say, oh, you know what? No, it's this.
So I mean, that's the challenge, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's that's not a bad challenge. That's just part of the nature of the beast. Is editorial isn't it just about sticking the pieces together? It's about finding the story and strengthening it and making sure all the threads connect and the themes resonate. And so if it's not there in the script yet, if there's some element you spot that's oh gosh, we can really shine a light on some thematic element that wasn't necessarily thought of if we do this or this, then that's definitely a path we would go down.
But is that something that's usually figured out well before you start shooting? Because I can imagine, I mean, the stop motion stuff, I mean, do an entire scene and then have them say, nah, not quite like that. You have to. You get all that worked out prior, right?
Exactly. Yeah, my busiest time is the year before we start shooting. So by the time we're shooting any scene, we have polished it and it has been planned literally to the frame.
That's awesome. Okay.
Every single detail. So the idea is that once they go out on the stage and they start shooting, a take 2 is calling the producer, let's all gather around and make sure this is really what we want to do. So we have sussed out thoroughly.
This is fantastic info, man. I mean, this is like really kind of, what we're doing because, our friends are doing really cool shit. and it's like we have a window into this that nobody else really does. Okay, now everybody else who cares to watch it can get this, but it's like, we've all progressed to this point where we're doing things that are interesting. And I think that's really cool. I'm enjoying this immensely. So,
well, again, one of those interesting things about the fact that our generation is this generation that got out of school, went out into the world, and found our way and lived 10, 15 years of life before Facebook came along and sort of like reconnected everybody instantly, is we didn't get that gap of 15 years to watch each other grow into whatever roles we landed in. It's like, I remember you when we're 22, and then I close my eyes and open them again. Now you're an expert in some strange thing that was totally unexpected, and it's kind of amazing to see. It's like time travel or something. You just leap forward, and suddenly your whole circle of friends is in a different part of their life, and kids, and it's amazing. Speaking
of kids, tell us about Lincoln. I am watching this child constantly. I'm loving it.
He's a good kid. I feel really lucky.
Yes.
He's real easygoing, friendly, smart, very kind. He presents me very few challenges, but all the challenges are very welcome. He's just a really sweet, kind-hearted little boy.
Roughly what, 6.5, 7 now?
7. He just turned 7 a month ago.
Excellent. Yeah, this is a good time.
Are you indoctrinating him? Is he being nerdified?
Well, we went and saw Captain America: The Winter Soldier yesterday. That was his first PG-13 experience.
Awesome.
And his thoughts?
He did it well. Let's see. I'll give you a cameo here.
Excellent.
All right. They want to know what you thought of where are you on here? There you are.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
They want to know what you thought of Captain America.
Good.
Yeah. Anything else besides good? Yeah. Okay. We'll let you do that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like definitely a good 3 stars at least. So that's something.
Yeah. It was a good one, and
yeah.
He's fun. It's interesting to see him going through experiences I had at his age, like him discovering Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing in my life. But seeing him sort of experience it in that different way, where it's already an established mythology, it's already a thing, versus like me seeing Episode 4 when I was 5 years old.
Right.
And it was like a bolt out of the sky, like a life-changing experience. Whereas now I ask him, well, what about some Star Wars? We're looking at Legos today. You want to look at the Star Wars ones? It's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of not interested in Star Wars right now. Like, whoa! Star Wars. But,
yeah, that whole Star Wars thing, that was, I kind of think that was what really changed our culture. Like, because there were so many of us in theaters watching this giant Star Destroyer move over us in the first scene and just going, oh my gosh, and all of us were just blown away. I mean, we were all, what, like 5 or something when that happened?
Right about that age.
It totally made science fiction and fantasy a real thing. Of course, all through grade school and high school, we had to hide it because it still wasn't allowed. But now, I mean, we're just shameless about it. We're the ones telling the stories, and we're just like, yeah, it's out.
Now it's the kids who grew up watching Star Wars and playing D&D who now are the ones greenlighting pictures at the studios. And
exactly, that's my point. And we've got Buffy and X-Files and all of the, I mean, those were old shows.
Yeah.
And those are, kind of, they kind of made it even more possible for all of us to play.
What's on prime time now? They've got something called You've got something called Divergent, I think that's coming. That's out on public airwaves that I wouldn't have even thought about in the 1980s.
Well, look at
The Walking Dead,
look at what
Supernatural, Warehouse 13. I mean, there's just tons of things.
Resurrection is coming out, wigging me out a little bit.
As a junior high aged awkward semi-outsider, comic book collecting was a huge thing to me.
Oh yeah, me too.
And now you look at Marvel Studios, they have this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV thing, and the Avengers has made $1 billion, and they're doing something totally amazing and different in the sense that they're creating a giant interconnected universe.
Right.
So it's not
with a little vignette at the end of the movie.
I mean, they've stepped it up. I mean, not this whole run of features they've done since the Avengers, where obviously they're telling a story which is at the end of the day going to involve 12, 13, 14 feature films that are all going to be interconnected, and I think you're going to look back and see threads connecting all the way back to the first Iron Man, that they had a whole huge plan. It's incredible. And that's an unthinkable thing that even 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have had that kind of gutsiness in entertainment, much less in genre stuff like superhero movies. Who would have thought superheroes would be like this huge? It's incredible.
And to have them now become, put a more realistic spotlight on them rather than like the old Michael Keaton Batman, where everything was in primary colors and everything was clean, and it's like and the conflicts were black and white. It's like back in the 80s, people were still thinking that way, and it's like I just feel like storytelling has matured, so incredibly, and that people can deal with nuance more.
Well, and I think that the smartest thing that Marvel's doing is embracing this sort of long form narrative style, which I think has come about with people embracing things like The Sopranos and Deadwood and these
or even Doctor Who, the revival,
this sort of long form narrative that TV has suddenly elevated. I mean, you think about TV was sort of like the slums when we were growing up. TV
but it was the best that we had.
Yeah, and the only long-form narrative you had were things like Dallas and things like that. Whereas
exactly,
now,
it was all and like Three's Company. They could be shown in any order, and it just didn't matter.
Yeah, and the seasons were 36 episodes, and it's all disposable. Whereas now, if you look at something like True Detective, I don't know if you guys watched that. It was 8 episodes on HBO, and it was absolutely brilliant, perfect, tight narrative construction over the 8 hours, incredible character development, jumping back and forth in time, not like time travel, but just as a narrative device. They had interviews in the modern day, and then they would show flashbacks, and those divergent timelines came together and interwove. It was a masterful piece of long-form entertainment, and you couldn't do that in a feature. 2 hours isn't long enough. So
no.
Now I think people got so accustomed to that kind of thing, getting obsessed with Game of Thrones and these things where it requires this big investment, that now you're starting to see that come back to features where, like what Marvel's doing, is they're telling a 15, 16, 20-hour story. The masterful thing was they didn't tell you they were doing that. It's like at first you're like, oh, it's Thor, we'll go see this, and then you start to realize, holy shit, it's this one giant interconnected universe, and it's all each film affects the next. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, and it's kind of like they're tapping into this model that's developed, and people are really into and requesting or even demanding that it be this way. It needs to be more complex. You're not gonna, don't try to do it in 2 hours. You're gonna schlock it up. It's not, do it right, and you'll have faithful fans forever. But it's the do it right part that matters, because there is still the flip side of that coin is, brevity is the soul of wit. In the atrocities that are the new Hobbit films, where I think there's where you can go too far. You can throw too many things. It can be too complex, way too many ideas, too many action sequences. Yeah. It's a fine line to walk. I think you have to understand your audience and understand how a narrative can play out in the amount of time you have for your episode. Now,
Yeah,
you
but
make 20 episodes, but you know.
But long-running action sequences aren't storytelling.
No.
You know, and that's the thing, is that you have to realize that at some point, the slaughter of hundreds of orcs in 30 minutes is just kind of grandstanding, and it actually kind of affects the story, because you're wondering, this is a vanguard.
Well, you get what was the term I used the other day? You get
the Tolkien effect,
no, it was
Peter Jackson effect.
You get fatigued from amazing things. You can only see so many amazing things in a row before you need a breather.
Well, I've also heard, though, that I mean, in terms of hyper reality, the way that we see things now, because of cinematography and the sound and the film and everything, think about the dinosaurs you saw in Jurassic Park. You'd see this big foot come down and crush something, and you'd get this behind view, and you'd get a zoom in on the mouth or whatever. If you actually saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex, it would be less dramatic. It would be like, it'd be like you see a giraffe out in the distance. I mean, you'd go, hey, wow, that's incredible, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but it's not like, well, but it's not, the camera isn't right.
Well, I think Jurassic Park's an interesting one to highlight, because that movie existed at a time where spectacle, that was the word I was trying to reach before, spectacle fatigue was the thing. But the idea of seeing a dinosaur that looked real on the screen was so mind-blowing at the time that they hung a movie on that. That a bunch of those scenes, when you watch them back now, they don't play the same way, because just the awe of, like, oh my God, there's a brontosaurus that totally looks real, just doesn't affect you the same way. So I think relying on spectacles is becoming a crutch, and
could that have been
finally not work?
Could that have been the problem with the Star Wars re-up, in that they threw spectacle at it?
There's more than one problem.
No, I mean storyline being that it wasn't.
Well, I think there is. I think there's a certain amount of.
They had this new, computer stuff, and let's throw it at it and see what happens.
Yeah, like episode 2, the climax is this giant battle happening on Geonosis with thousands of clone troopers and thousands of robots, and the guys at Red Letter Media said a very apropos thing. They're like, why would you even care if robots and clones fight each other? Because there's no stakes. You don't care if any of them die. It doesn't matter to anything. And the characters themselves are so ill-drawn, ill-defined that you have no stake in them. So the spectacle just becomes white noise. It's sort of meaningless.
Sure.
Whereas you look at Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader in the first Star Wars, an old man and a guy in a mask who can't really see very well having this clumsy fight that's not terribly impressive as far as fight choreography goes, but it's rich with emotion.
Oh, it's passionate.
It breaks your heart when he dies.
Right.
And there's virtually no special effects there, but it's character-driven, it's narrative-driven. It's all supported. The whole movie's built to that point. It's not just noise. And I think a lot of genre films, especially these days, there's very few directors who I think can elevate themselves above noise. I guess that's probably the simplest thing. And then you do it. It's just spectacle fatigue. It's just 90 minutes of loud stuff happening. Like, look at Michael Bay Transformers movies.
Sure. That's writ large. He's making money on
confusing things blowing up. That's like
what was your take on James Cameron's Avatar then?
Avatar, I haven't seen it.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how I managed to, but I missed it in the theater, and then I've had, I don't want to watch it 2D on the screen. I'm going to wait and see it 3D someday, but I don't go to the movies enough.
Yeah.
I think it's that byproduct. It's like when I worked in live music, I stopped going to concerts, so I guess.
You rest. You were in the background, yeah.
So, but I still catch things every once in a while. Like I watched Dread last night, and it was amazing.
Really?
Totally amazing. Because it wasn't a spectacle. It was like nobody saved the world. It wasn't a giant plot to destroy everything. It was, no, here's a tower block with a gang in it, and the cop gets locked in there and he has to fight his way out. Like a very small, contained story. It was brilliantly done, perfectly paced, a bite-sized amount of spectacle, which was exactly right.
That's awesome.
Let me ask you this. My boys and I were watching Cosmos, and that's our big Sunday night thing to do. And because Seth MacFarlane is producing it, there are bits of, he's got an animation team working on little history vignettes that are going on through the piece. I'm assuming you've seen at least one or two of the episodes already.
Yeah, I'm always a day behind, but I'm watching them. Yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts on interplaying the animation to tell the story, and are they effectively doing it from an editor's perspective?
I think they're effective. It's certainly a way in to the history that I think the sort of, if you were to go the Ken Burns style, where you just got old-timey pictures and had voiceover.
Yeah, that's for our parents.
Well, that can work, but I think that Cosmos is trying to appeal to dads sitting there with their kids or moms sitting there with their kids. So I think that they probably feel like the animation has to be there to give it a bit of gloss and keep your attention.
Sure,
but
it does.
It does, but I've been disappointed that they've been leaning on that so much. And as much as I wholeheartedly agree with the idea that we should be pushing science and underlining that science is solving these questions of origins and it's fact-based and demonstrable and you can do experiments to prove it, I feel like they're leaning on the politics a little too hard to the detriment of, like, what, black holes are amazing things. I'd rather see some visualizations of what's going on and some explanations of the physical effects of what a black hole is, or getting at what's the actual cosmology.
So in other words, they're spending some quality time away from doing the explaining and sort of little cheerleading science.
Exactly. And I understand it. I think it's important because they're positioned in this place where they're in primetime television. I mean, when's the last time there was any kind of science documentary program on primetime network television? I can't name one.
Right.
So I understand the desire to take that platform and to to make those political statements, but there was an episode where, I don't know, it was 2 ago or so, where they were talking about the guy who was burned at the stake, and
right, that was the first episode.
Yeah. It was like they really laid it on. I was like, oh my god, let's get to some science.
Yeah, it's almost
defending science. I want to see the science because it's so magnificent.
Yeah, show don't tell.
Exactly.
Because if you just do the science show, then people will love it. If you stand there on your soapbox and wave your finger, then they'll feel like, well, wait a minute, I thought this was a science show.
If what you're doing is saying your creation myth is out of date, you're gonna alienate people.
Let me be the defense for a minute on that one. I think that it's different than what the folks at Mythbusters are doing, for example, in the sense that they're not showing the practical aspects of science. They're not showing you how to do the science.
They never claimed.
It's actually a flip side. They're showing you the history of science. Where did we get? We'll take topic and we'll get from the very beginnings, the origins of where this came from, to where we're at now, and where we could be later. That's what today's thing was about. And they show different elements of the topic at hand. Evolution was round 2, I believe. Last week was on, I've forgotten. I'm sorry. I'm caught up on this week.
It was black holes last week.
Black holes last week. Getting the idea of galaxies and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I think.
So, unfortunately, what the problem that I have with that is that, unfortunately, you have no choice but to go into the politics of it because, one, it's Fox Network, and I think that's you're looking at the demographic of that, of the folks coming off of Family Guy and Sports on Sunday, that they want. You're not looking at the scientific literate crowd, and they're going, "Why am I watching this shit? Why should I be interested in this stuff?" You know, I believe in this book right here. You know,
from you said from an editor's perspective, and that's the part where I would say I agree that those are important things, and that's a bell that needs to get rung. But on the balance,
sure,
I think it's if you're gonna make that political move to potentially, toss someone's table of belief and challenge them, I think that it's not enough to just challenge them and say there's alternatives. I think you need to give them that amazing, mind-blowing piece of information, like the atoms in your body came from the insides of stars as they exploded.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
But there's just the fact that some people are never gonna take that in, and that's not really the audience anyway. And the people who don't need to be told about the amazingness of science. The information is gold, and so it should be focused on. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like the information tells a better story than the doctrine.
Now I'm turning around again and I'm saying that from a watcher's perspective and from a pro-science perspective, I mean, of the three of us, I think I'm knee deep in it at this point, and I'm of the mind that the conversation that's not happening is how we got from what Cosmos is doing is it's how did we get from not knowing to knowing, and the humanistic side of that conversation, because most of the people won't want to know the nitty-gritty about it. Most of us are interested in the human story behind it, because now what the kids are getting at are those little bits of people. Wait, he found it that way, and they're asking their parents a question that they can't answer. Now everyone's off to the races. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if it ends up with kids bugging their parents to buy the telescope, the win. I mean, there's no.
I agree, and I think that's exactly what's happening. I mean, I think there's been a telescope in every episode.
I think if I really, I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I don't mean.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean.
But I grew up watching Carl Sagan, and I think the key thing missing is, and I think they're making attempts at it, but I just don't think Neil can sell it the same way, is the wonder that Sagan had this ability to so naturally bring to the table a real, relatable, palpable sense of wonder and awe at the things that he was saying and describing, and there was a natural poetry.
A gravitas that was.
Yeah.
I think it was his hand gestures. Well, if you look at that video where he's the extent, the of the human mind,
there's something to it. I mean, I think as a narrator, he had something intoxicating.
Yeah, he did.
And I think Neil, I really like him when he's a guest on a program. I think when he does like round tables and things, he's incredible. He just brilliant. He used to bug me when he was on Nova, and part of it still does in Cosmos, where I think he kind of steps on the other side of the line of Hammy at times, whereas he could just effortlessly make you, get goosebumps. Sometimes Neil deGrasse Tyson feels a little bit like, he's the guy at the planetarium.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen a panel discussion between him and Neil Gaiman, and I think I felt like Neil Gaiman toying with him. I mean, like, because you know, Tyson is such a realist. He's such a, and he just doesn't get out of that mindset. And it's like, if there isn't evidence, then it can't be true. It's like, it's like there wasn't always evidence. It's like there's still a ton we don't know, and at times I've even thought he was kind of intolerant, like the way he treats ancient peoples. Like some of the things he's written or said about the ancient people, being, because of their religion and stuff, being idiots, and I'm just kind of like, you've got to be kidding. These people were carving in stone and figuring out things that we're just realizing they'd figured out, about the stars and about, the way water moves and the way, they were doing incredible things with the worst tools ever.
Well, that's actually really a fascinating thing personally. I don't know when it was, but I think about it a lot when I was watching that I think it's Werner Herzog documentary about the cave paintings they found in France.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is great, by the way. But it got me thinking about the fact that our species is as intelligent now as we were then, and vice versa. We have the benefit of standing on the shoulders of every generation that came before it, but they were just as capable of intelligence and nuance as we are. They just didn't have that history of discovery behind them, so they were just earlier in the narrative. But they were just as it wasn't that they were stupid. It was they did the best with the tools they have, just like we are.
Exactly. And could you imagine, because to get to those cave paintings, they're deep underground.
Sure.
And if you've ever been in a cave, it's pitch fucking black. You can't see anything. And so what were they down there with? Fire? They were crawling on their bellies with torches? I mean, what kind of discipline and determination does it take to go down to draw pictures on the walls? If we had that kind of determination and discipline,
what we don't
holy
know.
crap!
What we don't know is that you're presuming the motive of them going into the cave. Ooh, let's go down here and draw the pictures. When in fact it could be, let's get down here so we don't get eaten by those things over there.
No. There's no. To go that far is way too. There has to be ritual or something involved because it's not necessary to go that far down. Nothing is in caves. It's a dead zone because it's too hard for any animal to go that far down. It's just not. It's not practical because there's nothing to eat. There's nothing. We think of game caves and stuff where there's cave morays and all these crazy creatures under there. But no, in a real cave, there's no reason for there to be anything living down there. So
it's the same thing that it's the same reason that we built telescopes, and it's the same reason we make cosmos. I want to find out.
Exactly.
That's probably why they went down there. And then the painting.
I got no reason to do it, but
portraying the natural world, and that was our Cosmos TV show. Was these paintings on the wall? Was this way? Of, here's what our world is, and how we think we understand it.
And that room was the channel.
Mm-hmm.
and if you're going to be good enough to watch this channel, you're going to crawl on your belly with a handful of fire.
If you want to have your subscription to Fox all through this limestone cave with a torch in your hand.
Hey, another thing that's been on my mind is your fascination with being a war photographer. Talk to me about that.
I can't escape. Yeah. I just did an interview a couple days ago about it.
Do you know the story, Cameron?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's the funny thing about it is that you see these kinds of things on these little articles, and it's like some other project that somebody else has done. I'm not talking specifically about yours, but I've seen other things happen, and you read the article and it's like this guy did this. and then you keep reading down. It's like he's affiliated with Lucasfilms, or he's affiliated, and you're like, oh, okay, that's the connection. Now it's all clear. Okay, but I know that Chris didn't get in through some back door with his connections in filmmaking or editing, and so now that's kind of upturned my idea of like how it's all an interconnected conspiracy of Hollywood. It's like
Portlandia in this case.
Oh,
it's
power of Reddit is what it is.
I know, it's amazing. That kind of crap just blows me away. And if you just had a good idea, you went and did it, and people noticed. I mean,
and the thing that delights me about it is that it wasn't anything I had any kind of end game in mind. It was like I was down in
that's why it worked.
Plan, and I went up because I post on Reddit all the time, and I went on to gaming, and I'm like, hey, this is this thing I did tonight. What do you think? And then like I went to bed, got up the next morning, and there were articles on like the blogs I always read about. I'm like, what's going on? It was the weirdest, most confusing thing. And then now I have a crew, like a clan, or I guess whatever you call it, a crew on the game with 300 some people in it. And anytime I go in the game, there's other people, other photographers who are like, wearing my colors and will offer to drive me around and, be. It's the weirdest experience.
You're now a media executive in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
Do you get a Cadillac with a wet bar in it?
No wet bar, but. What was my last vehicle I got? I got a hot rodded Volkswagen Beetle. That I can shoot an Uzi out the window of.
Wow.
You're the Rupert Murdoch of.
Oh, those fighting words.
Does Rupert Murdoch have an Uzi?
I bet he does. Are you kidding? He's pro guns, isn't he? Or at least the Fox Network is.
He's not. He's pro him. He doesn't care about anything except what's going to make him money.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get rubbed out, aren't I?
Look for the red dot.
So I've got another question. Star Wars related. Well, actually, I mean, it's more like I guess it's your work. You went to Lucasfilms, right? Or Lucas Ranch.
Yeah, I've been to Skywalker Ranch.
Skywalker Ranch.
That's where their sound mixing facility is. So
that's all that's there is the sound mixing.
Well, right now they have. There's one very large building that has about maybe 4 full-size movie theater stages, and then 10 or so other sort of smaller design stages, and then a full-size movie theater where they do playbacks. And that's busy all the time. I mean, that place is booked constantly. But there's a whole bunch of other offices back behind his main house where they do things like when they made the Indiana Jones DVDs, like the documentary crew was set up there and did all the extras.
Oh, okay.
Put together. So there's other Lucasfilm related activities that go on there, but nothing permanent. It's Skywalker Sound is the only permanent part of that.
So you went there solely to mix the sound for Paranorman, right? Is that the deal?
Coraline both. We did our final mixes there, and then we did temp mixes as well. So I've been 4 times.
Oh, okay. And I mean that's because it's just top of the line sound equipment, or does your company, does LAIKA not have their own kind of thing, or?
No, I mean that's the kind of thing that the capital investment you need to put into that kind of facility is enormous.
Okay.
And for what we do when we've at our busiest, eventually, knock on wood, we should be doing 1 picture a year, which means the economics just don't work. If we were doing one movie a year, we'd keep a stage busy for 6 weeks a year, once a year.
Okay, yeah.
It's not worth it. So it's much better, obviously, to go to a place where that's what they do all the time, and amazing designers, amazing mixers, top of the line equipment, and it's a pretty nice place to go spend a month if you need to spend a month away from home working.
So are you just like hidden away in this area, this compound. Is that what it's like? You
It's
know.
weird. It's like if you weren't there making a movie, it's like being a Branch Davidian. Way up the mountain, like sort of the back hills outside of San Rafael. It's like 40 minutes north of San Francisco, and you're in the middle of literally the middle of nowhere. It's just cows and mountain lions and pissed off wild turkeys everywhere. And they have like some little condominiums on site. That's where the people stay, and then about 2 miles from there, winding through farms and stuff, are the sound buildings and then the main house. So basically, you, like they say, get your groceries, but when you land, don't come to your room first, because it's 40-minute or 20-minute drive, whatever it is, back down to civilization if you want to go grocery shopping. So you basically got to like get your whole 2 or 3 weeks worth of stuff and drive up there, and then you just stay.
You've got a whole shopping bag full of ramen and.
Yeah, but I mean, you stay in I had a 1-bedroom apartment basically with a full kitchen and everything, and you eat lunch with the crew and stuff. So they take care of you. It's a pretty cushy. It's not a bad way to spend a month, I'll tell you.
No, I don't doubt it.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's cool. I had no idea.
Oh, and the most amazing thing was, and this was like reaching back and giving a gift to myself at 5 years old, was the last day of Paranorman. We finished the mix, and we were sitting in the mixing theater, and we're having our champagne and toasting and doing our little end of movie speeches to each other. And somebody says, "Do you guys want to see the archive?" So we got to go. We, 2 directors and our post supervisor went. It's this huge barn, a 2-story barn that's all climate controlled and heavily locked down. But we got to go and walk down the aisles of the archive and see all the original X-wing models and.
Oh wow!
That's like all the original costumes. We saw like the row upon row of stormtrooper uniforms, Darth Vader costumes, the little props like communicators, blasters, lightsabers, matte paintings, original storyboards. It was incredible. I mean, like every 2 feet, you're seeing something that's taking your breath away and giving you goosebumps, and then you turn around and there's Howard the Duck, the real Howard the Duck. Totally amazing. So I have this huge hard drive full of photos. What go in is you can take pictures, but you can't post them on the internet. And I'm just like, oh, it's got on Reddit I could be reaping, and I can't do it. So it was amazing, really amazing experience.
Well, that's outstanding.
I highly recommend.
Did you see the gold bikini?
What's that?
Did you see the gold bikini?
The gold bikini? I saw. I don't recall seeing it. I saw the Palace dancing girl uniforms, though, which personally, that was my 10-year-old thing more than Leia was. So that got scratched either way.
Oh man.
My dice are upstairs, Cameron, but I do have an automatic dice roller on my computer.
I don't trust those.
What do you don't trust those?
How can it be random?
There is an algorithm determining it all.
It's a conspiracy.
What is the D20? I'm sure I have a D20 around here somewhere.
I need a D20 and a D6. But we can just do it from here. I'm going to screen share my thing.
Was that a siren outside your house?
It was.
Isn't that's strange, isn't it?
It's pretty uncommon. Even though I live in the woods, the one road that goes past my house goes right through all the industrial district. So
okay.
Quite a bit of traffic. That's the only bummer about the place is a lot of traffic noise. But if you've ever lived near that kind of thing, you notice it for about 2 weeks, and then very quickly it just sort of your brain filters it out.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the roller dice thing here. So
okay.
So if you guys hit my face, you'll see the screen share.
Yep, we're looking at it.
And I'm clicking the D6 right now, and you get 4 questions.
4 questions.
4 questions. So, the first question comes from... Hold on, here's the list of 20 questions. I'm going to put that over here. You'll be able to see that. So, the first roll is an 18.
Okay, what's 18?
Hero strength. Sorry.
What is your favorite kind of pizza and why?
Favorite kind of pizza?
And why?
And why? Well, super thin crust. I am not a true Chicagoan because I can't stand Chicago style.
Okay.
Just pepperoni and cheese. It's the classic, you know.
Classic.
I don't need no fancy stuff. I like the standard, you know.
Now,
how do you like your pepperoni like really crispy, or do you like it do you like it more floppy?
I'll take it either way. I mean, that's
really?
the thing about pizza. The shittiest pizza is still pizza. It's still better than a lot of. I mean, I've had.
It's still better than not pizza.
Yeah. Pepperoni pizza is just one of those easy and dependable things. You know, it's always going to be good on some level. I suppose it could be truly awful if you were really creative, but pepperoni pizza rarely disappoints.
Okay.
Right.
At least when you're eating it. Half hour later, different story.
Question number 2 is number 15. Is there a food that your taste buds automatically reject? And don't tell me the why, but give me some details about it. Is there a food that your taste buds automatically reject?
Seafood. Hold on, I'm being asked to look at something real quick.
Sure.
Sorry, I had to look at a piece of Star Wars Angry Birds.
Awesome.
Seafood I have tried many times in my life.
You have got to be kidding. You live in Portland.
I live in the Pacific Northwest, like the land of salmon, and I can't...
Like fresh salmon.
Life.
Okay. Now, so anything from the sea? So you're talking shrimp, crab, lobster.
Yeah, I've tried. I just can't.
And even fish, which is kind of like chicken, you know?
Horrible. I can't stand it. The textures, the flavors, the smells, all of it just revolts me.
Wow.
And
okay.
I wish I liked it because a lot of it is so healthy.
Yeah.
And it's abundant here, and I can't make myself like it. But I'll eat Sour Patch Kids. The worst food ever invented.
Okay. that makes me smile.
What's that now?
Number 6.
$25, 35.
Number 6?
6.
Did we freeze? Hello?
No, we didn't freeze. The boy seems to be talking to his father, so I didn't want to...
Oh, no, he's just going on.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe there was a thing that we didn't want to interrupt.
No.
Number 6 is, what neurosis do you have that you care to admit? And describe it in as much detail as you wish to.
Okay. I'm going to give you the answer you probably least expect. What neurosis do I have? I will admit. I have Souls at Zero by neurosis. I have Enemy of the Sun. Oh, geez, this is going crazy. Neurosis is an awesome band.
Oh, you actually have neurosis.
Wait, you're doing the like death metal thing now, aren't you?
Honor found.
No.
Oh.
He's admitting to his neurosis.
Oh no, I know, but the Chris Murrie that I met back at Knox was not. I don't remember you liking the death metal thing.
Well, in high school, it was all about hardcore punk rock. And,
yeah. Okay.
You know, I was into like thrash metal, like Metallica and Slayer and all that, and I kind of took a hiatus from that kind of music for several years.
Well, yeah, the Teak House was all Fish and
like
prog rock and
prog rock and things like that, and I still listen to a lot of that. But I don't know. Several years ago, I was like, I really need to hear that Slayer's Angel of Death album. Rain in Blood, because that's got Angel of Death on it, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, I forgot how much I love this record, and now my record collection is enormous, and it's all black metal and like the crazy Norwegian murdering church burner guys.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Dissonance and ugliness, and I don't know. I think dissonance is beautiful. I love that intensity of it and the just shock of it. I don't know. I love it.
The chordal mess.
But then at the same time, I've spent the past several months obsessed with like weird German bands from 1970, like Can and Amandul, and so my tastes run pretty wide, but definitely I enjoy the heavy.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, the next question, this is question number 3, is 4, as you can see over here in the corner, and the question is, what is at the top of your bucket list, and why?
Gosh, that's hard. I don't know if I have a top.
And I guess
I've been thinking a lot of traveling lately because I don't get to.
A lot of what?
Traveling. I really would love to see ruins of ancient civilizations around the world. I think it would be an amazing trip to do if I could somehow take like 2 years off.
Yeah.
And manage to not get murdered in places like Egypt and which is Egypt's not exactly the safest country to travel to right now.
And they have the neatest stuff.
Well, some of it,
Yeah.
Machu Picchu would be amazing. I would love to see the pyramids and the ruins all.
Iraq used to have a lot of good stuff. That's a little tense now.
They are in Iraq, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, it survived. All over the world, there's amazing things, and I think as Americans, there's very few. I mean, there's certainly earthworks that are left behind from the true Americans who were here before us, but we happen to live in like the one continent where there aren't gigantic standing stones and those things that predate records, which I think would be really incredible to go and stand on those spots and feel it sounds hippy-dippy of me, but feel the energy of that place and try to see what are the connections between them, what are the parallels of these civilizations that existed at the same time out of touch with each other.
I mean, you could go down to Central and South America and see those kinds of monuments, but I think what's missing is that there isn't a historical record as much where you can be like, well, this is where this person was at such and such a time, and they did this. It's kind of like we know what rituals were there and kind of what they believe, but there's no details.
No, and those are interesting. Is like the pyramids are incredible, but any individual block has some unwritten history to it of who was the mason who cut it, the guys that dragged it, and what was their life. Those kinds of things fascinate me.
And we know who those pyramids were made for. Like, they're attached to real guys who told the slaves what to do. If you go down to South America, there are these beautiful temples and pyramids and stuff, but I guess I don't know. Maybe people who know more of the history can tell you. Well, this is the temple of.
Wouldn't Jerusalem be an obvious choice then? I mean, it's a lot more stable than the rest of it. And you almost have a person-to-person history that through the Bible itself, but also through just general historical records of the Mossad and not the Mossad, Masada, which was the little holdout they had against the Romans back in. They're all still there. They're all in the valley.
And there's layers of history there. I mean, the Crusaders came, and the history with the Crusaders is fucking awesome.
Yeah. You could literally be sitting at a cafe in Haifa where Richard III took a piss. You know what I'm saying? And dude, right there, the Pentangelites were right there, buddy.
I think the thing that intrigues me though are the unknown histories, are those the mysteries.
Okay.
Yeah. The fact that there are those places like those caves in France, where individuals came and made a mark, and they lived a life, and they had dreams, and they laughed, and they cried, and they lived a life just like we do.
Yep.
and we can't know it, but we can stand there and witness that they existed.
Yeah.
That's magnificent to me. History is fascinating, but it's those lost stories of those individuals. Sure. I think about that even now, like when I see an abandoned car, I romanticize this idea that that car made someone incredibly happy one day.
Yeah.
Car.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll never know who that was. Now it's this thing, this remnant in the woods somewhere, overgrown and rusted, and those kinds of little tiny mysteries of a person's life I find really fascinating. So obviously
it's Walter White's car. Who knows? It made him really happy for a brief amount of time.
Well, or tragedy. Those are other things that are equally fascinating.
Yeah.
And that's that stopping to look at the train, the car wreck thing.
Yeah.
When you go to the Tower of London and you see the chopping block where Anne Boleyn's head was cut off, that's not like the feel-good touristy thing to go look at, but there is a life and a convergence of history and one person's experience that ended at that spot, and that's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, I love the concept that there are stories behind everything. I mean, that's really what drives a lot of the projects that I do, because there's a lot of real human stories that are just out there, and even the people at the top are just really kind of they're simple. They work on the same level we do so often. We can identify.
Well, and probably the greatest tragedy of the human condition is that we all are essentially sort of wandering in the woods, mostly alone inside our heads.
Uh-huh.
And yet we somehow so easily forget.
Yes.
That common experience that that we're all alone back behind our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And any connection you make, even the strongest bonds you have with your parents and your children, you can't ever get past that wall to get behind their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You're always alone in there.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So the stories we tell, and those are those things. They're the only ways we can let people in, through metaphor and story and narrative. So I mean that brings it right back around to movies and
Yep.
Why what I do appeals to me is because I get to tell stories and offer people a pathway into another person's experience, whether it's vicariously or offering them a mirror to reflect on their own personal experience via this metaphor of another character's story. So I think history's part of that, and that's probably why I want to travel, to bring it back around to the question.
Yep.
To those kinds of places, because I've certainly done those go have a cocktail next to the pool kind of vacations.
Yeah.
But it's not the same thing.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Not long-term, personally enriching.
So now I've noticed you're also doing climbing. Do you only do gyms, or have you done real rock?
So far, I have just been in the gym.
Yeah.
This May, I'm going to go to what's the name of it? We're going to go to a place in the high desert in Central Oregon.
Okay.
The name is escaping me currently, but it's a hot spot for climbing, and the people I'm going to go with are going to do harnesses and the belay and all that stuff. So I'm going to have to trust them, because I have not done any harness climbing at all. I've done nothing but bouldering, which is all free climbing, which is fine for 15, 20 feet, but not for 70 or 80.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited. This will be my first time actually climbing on real rock, and hopefully I don't fall to my death.
Oh, you won't. You won't.
Knock on wood.
No, I'm gonna be with people who I trust. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll be. It's a lot of fun. It's you have to get over yourself. When you're at that height. I've done it, and it's But I think the problem I always had was that I viewed climbing as a way to get somewhere. So it's like the bouldering stuff, like crawling around on a rock. It's just like, I I don't, that it didn't appeal to me. I wanted to get to the top. I wanted to I wanted to see the view, and so much less of a sport kind of thing. So, but
yeah, I'm having the opposite experience now that I've been doing it for a little more than a year, where to me the most exciting part of it is within the problem. It's it's the next hold and navigating an uncertain path.
It's a giant puzzle.
Yeah, shifting your weight in ways which is a little scary. It's the fear is a big part of it. I love it. I love that sense where you're hanging on with your left hand, your weaker hand, and you're supporting all your body weight, and you're barely holding yourself up with the tips of your toes. And you gotta jump a little bit to reach that next hold, and it's scary, and you might fall, and you got no choice. If you don't go for it, you're gonna fall. It's like go now, grab it, or you are gonna fall. That moment is amazing.
And you have to realize that you're stronger leaning out over because of the angle of like you're actually creating more force to the wall when you're hanging over the cliff by your fingertips, and rather than hugging it. It's
Oh, it's great fun. It's great fun, and it just happens to be very good for your body as far as exercise go. Which
I bet you're ripped now.
Like 39 years to find an exercise which I didn't find mind-numbingly boring that I like. So between climbing and hiking, I've actually gotten in really good shape. But Oregon's clearly a good place for me.
Excellent. The final question.
Yes, sir.
Number 4.
We were on 3? I thought that was 4.
No, that was 3.
Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, we rolled a 4.
Yeah, you rolled a D6 for 4 questions. We had the favorite kind of pizza. We had the taste buds reject. We had this question, the bucket list. And now the final question is, you are a crusader. Who are the infidels that you must destroy and why?
Oh boy.
You can crusade against or for anything. Come back.
One. The thing that's stuck in my craw right now is I'd probably clean house in Wall Street and the SEC. I have a lot of anger and a lot of bitterness about that gang of crooks and liars.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a culture of greed and inside baseball going on that's sort of rotting capitalism from the inside out. It sort of bums me out because I feel like the great experiment of the free market is showing what a failure it is. Mainly because I think people can't be trusted with money. I think that once I'm wealthy, greed is a deeply ingrained part of our psyche. And even I think the most noble people get a taste, and it's hard to say no, hard to say I don't want more, and hard to afford. So I think we have several decades running of decreasing regulation and the whole, pardon my French, but the bullshit idea of trickle-down economics and placing value on how cleverly you can game the numbers to make a profit as opposed to real work and real ingenuity and real value, material value. Those things seem to be lost.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of guys who need to get taken out on a rail.
Yeah, we should be Iceland. What they did in Iceland was phenomenal. They really did take those guys out on a rail.
Well, and that's not a socialist country, is it? I mean, they still certainly have a free market, but
well, even the socialist.
I don't know their civics enough to make that.
Even the socialist countries have they're pretty capitalist. It's just that they believe the state should provide the essentials to people to make it a healthy running nation.
Like healthcare.
Yeah. So it's not the responsibility of your workplace.
Free. You go find what you're going to be good at. The state will cover that as long as you pursue those goals.
And it lets the companies, it lets the corporations off the hook for paying for all of these other things, and they can work on innovating and prospering, you know. So, but like in terms of what Iceland did, yeah, they got rid of all those bankers. I believe some of them are serving jail time and stuff too. So
that in its own right would be miraculous.
Yeah.
The whole mortgage fiasco that fell apart. Nobody did any time for it. Nobody paid any price. In fact, all the bankers have made even more money.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, I short sold a house a year ago because I bought a house in 2008. I had the amazing luck of buying a house right at the top of the wave, and through the circumstances which have unfolded in my life in the past couple of years, I had to sell it and at a significant loss. And I took a bath on it, and
yeah,
it frustrates me to no end because it's like I never missed a payment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a responsible homeowner. I took really good care of the place, and yet, I had a piece of my American dream sort of crumble in my hands.
Yeah.
Because of somebody else's fraud and malfeasance had gamed the system and skewed all the numbers, and
Mm-hmm.
I ended up in the bath for it, which is just frustrating because okay, now I got to wait it out. I got to wait out a short sale for several years, which is fine. I'll weather that storm. But I sure would love someone to go to jail.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a theory, and I don't think it's very, incredible, but I think that almost any system will work when you get rid of the assholes. Assholes fuck everything up.
Yep.
You can have, if everybody plays by the rules on any system, I bet it will work. Whatever system it is, I bet it's going to work. But the moment you get an asshole in there who's going to start playing loose with the rules and looking for an opportunity to take advantage of when people aren't looking, the whole thing is fucked.
Well, then you have a chicken and the egg question. Is it that power corrupts absolutely? So you give people, once they get the money, that's when they become the assholes, or is it that the assholes are just really good at getting the money?
I think that they're assholes to start with.
Yeah.
No, there's supposedly a study. I was listening to NPR just today. It was yesterday, where there's a group out of Arizona or something, University of Arizona, that the psych people gave. They made them play Monopoly. It was at Princeton. I'm sorry, it was out of Princeton. They made these graduate students play Monopoly, but they purposely gave one group of people double the money and extra rules to play the game, and they videotaped it. And these folks, regular folks, had nothing special about them, are totally taking. They're reveling in their newfound wealth.
Oh, sure.
Sort of a capitalist version of the Stanford prison experiments.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that if your psyche actually takes on the role of what do they call it? Where entitlement that you have now that you've come into some large income.
Mm-hmm.
You now are entitled to perks. Your psyche actually is setting you up for that.
Yeah.
And mind you, there are always exceptions to the rules, but by and large, they were going. These folks were given this little perk, and they totally took it to the races.
Yeah.
With no.
And in the process, they rationalized to themselves why they were better. Why they were better for it. So yeah.
Well, I bet the arguments that they made would probably sound very familiar.
Yeah.
The kind of rhetoric that you hear. Every 2 years.
Here's the other interesting thing though. Without assholes, we don't have art. I mean, there would be no Yago. there would be no Macbeth, there would be no Lady Macbeth. You know, the assholes give us a story, and that's what's really fucking frustrating.
Conflict and.
Yep. Because
it's not the good guy. It's the nemesis that really is kicking some butt. That makes it interesting.
Yeah.
You can't have a good Bats without a Joker. Can't.
Yeah.
Well, no one wants to watch a movie about a guy sipping lemonade on his front porch. You know, maybe a short you could get away with it, but the feature maybe not.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, this has been really awesome.
It's been wonderful to talk to you.
Oh my God, it's been great. I've learned a lot. I mean, this has totally been so fruitful, and it was great catching up, man.
You too. Well, thanks for inviting me along.
Hey, dude, I've been excited for this interview for the longest time. I haven't seen you in ages.
I would say this is the first interview in a long time that I have done where I didn't have to talk about Grand Theft Auto photography.
Sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's fine.
I had to ask.
No, it's a very weird thing. So
I just love the happenstance of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what makes it. I feel like that there is hope in the world that if you just have a good idea and just put it out there. Here's my idea. Boom. I don't care what happens with the idea. Just there you go.
Yeah.
And something comes of it. I love it. I've got ideas coming out of my head hourly that I want to put out there just because. Why not? We'll see what happens.
Post them on Reddit. You never know.
Okay, cool. Well, do you have any questions? Anything else you want to say?
Nothing that springs to mind.
Cool.
Immediately, it was really a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Well, thank you. Thanks for making the time. We'll be taking this and putting it on into a blog format kind of thing. I don't do a write-up or anything, but I do add links and stuff, so I don't know. I'll probably link up some of the things that you've done. I mean, do you have an IMDb?
I have a page, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It's
I don't have an IMDb. That's awesome. That's great.
It's not very deep. That's the only bad part about animation. It takes so long that in my whole career I'll probably just have a handful of films by the time I retire versus live action guys who can do 2 or 3 a year. My list will be fairly short, but hopefully it's all high quality.
And have you gotten it? You've gotten awards too, haven't you?
I have not. No, I've been nominated. I was nominated for Coraline for a American Cinema Editors Award. That was the same year as Up, so we got our clocks cleaned. So.
A nomination is an award, man. that's.
Well, you know what I got out of it is I'm a member now of the ACE, and I get to vote, which means I get screeners. So the only reason that it really mattered to me was that now every Thanksgiving I get 30 or 40 DVDs over the course of a month of pretty much everything that came out worth anything that year. So I get lots of TV
You're
time.
You're going to get Winter Soldier from, you're going to get the first DVDs from Winter Soldier.
I'll have bought Winter Soldier by the time the screeners come out.
Well, fair point.
But it does mean I can watch the third Hobbit movie without having to actually pay money to see, the pain. I have to watch it out of some, okay, I've seen them all, I got to see it. I'm hoping somehow.
Yeah, my son's already said, I think there was an advert during Cosmos for the DVD for the second movie, and immediately my son just went, that was horrible. Well, what are you talking about? And, because I didn't see the ad blurb, but he did. He's going, oh man, Desolation of Smog. They just advertised it. I'm going, oh yeah, that was bad, wasn't it? Horrible. It was just, please don't make us see that.
Well, I'm glad Evangeline Lilly was there.
3 so much, and he just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well. I thought Evangeline Lilly as part of it was a great way to cut up the sausage fest that is Tolkien. So.
Yeah, I didn't mind her. I minded the barrel thing going on probably about 3 times longer than it should have.
Right.
The giant golden dwarf statue thing, and like, I don't know, any opportunity he has to spin a 2-minute scene into a 10-minute scene, he will do. It drives me crazy, which is so strange because those first, the original trilogy, as long as they weren't indulgent. They were really tightly crafted narrative.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the fact that they thought that they could turn what amounted to be a novella into a 3-movie deal.
Yeah.
That's why you get this.
That was a bad move.
And yet, Mirkwood, which is the centerpiece of the second act of that book, gets breezed by in about 5 minutes in the movie. Like, they're like, we're lost in the woods. Oh, we're captured by the elves, and then that's it. It was like, no, that's like the meat of the second act is that amazing trip through this haunted forest, and they just strangest decisions. I have no idea what's going on in that editing room, but maybe it should be a fire.
All right.
Well, cool. Well, let's wrap it up. Like I said, I'll do the write-up, or I won't do a write-up. I'll post the video and post some links and stuff, and when it's ready, I'll send you a link. You can share it to whoever you want, and we'll share it and go on from there. So, I guess that's it. So I guess until next time, man.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good evening, and hopefully talk to you both very soon.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.